his talk is called What I Learned from Escaping Death Twice. Now, I've met Kiefer a couple of times, and he's always bubbly, he's always in a good mood, and I always look at people like that and sort of think, like, what is really going on? Is that real, or are you just a good actor? But yeah, he's a pleasure and joy to be around, and he's accomplished a lot in his life so far. He's a retired pro athlete, he's a transformational coach, he's a public speaker, he's an author, and he's a mover. So I will allow him to grace the stage and share his story with you.
Thank you for that intro, by the way. Said my surname perfectly. All right. Good morning, everyone. Oh, I love that. Okay, so my name is Kiefer Piccio, and as Linda amazingly said, in my previous career, I used to be an international swimmer. Now, I remember starting swimming at the tender age of 1, and from there I drew like a natural affinity to water, being one of those water babies. And from starting to swim at that young age, up until I was 9, I decided to, I've done this for so long, why don't I go competitive? So at the age of 9, I started to swim competitively. By age 12, I set my first ever national record in my country, from the Philippines, by the way, and I was ranked the #1 swimmer for my age group in the entire country. And what followed were years of getting sponsored by different sporting organizations, traveling around the world, competing in different countries. I think the best part, I'd say, at that moment in my journey was I was on the way to compete in the London 2012 Olympics. Now you can imagine at that time, I was also featured in various newspaper articles, live televisions, and live radio stations. And again, my life at that point was pretty goddamn amazing. But see, the issue is it wasn't always this way. During a major competition, I dislocated my shoulder during the race, which put me off the journey to 2012 London Olympics. And the doctor who was looking after my shoulder said, because you kept on swimming while your shoulder was dislocated, there's no chance of you competing to the level that you used to. Now, for a 16-year-old to hear this, that absolutely destroyed me. And what follows was years of depression, anxiety attacks, emotional imbalances, and probably trying to figure out and answer the question, who am I besides swimming? What is my purpose now without swimming? And I went through a transformational journey, and luckily I was able to discover the areas of NLP, life coaching, parkour, and most importantly, the Mo Foundation. Because of these experiences, I was able to finally learn that my idea of a true purpose was ineffective. Now I define a true purpose as not doing that one thing that you've set yourself out to do for the rest of your life. For me, your true purpose is doing the things what you're currently doing now, purposefully. There's a difference. Now, with that, I decided to take my life and do it more purposefully. And one of those experiences was my first ever open water competition back in 2013 here in the UK. And this was in Portsmouth. It was, the average typical British weather where you get the amazing gray clouds, the beautiful cold winds, and got the amazing large waves out in the sea. And I thought, I don't know how you people swim in this country, but I'm starting to miss Philippines. But I thought, you know what, it is part of the adventure. Let's just go for it. So I went to the officials table, and I got myself registered, and I said, okay, I'm here to compete. What am I going to do now? So he briefed me on my 5K swim. And if you can imagine, out in the sea, there's 4 floating buoys, or balloons, if you like to call it like that. And we the swimmers, had to swim in those 4 buoys twice to complete our 5K race. And I thought, that's pretty simple. I've done worse in my swimming practice, so this is probably a breeze. So I thought, okay, let me start to get ready. So I started to visualize my race. I started to stretch, and I started to change. As I revealed my sexy Speedo shorts, I'll let you guys imagine what that looks like, but not too long. Okay, you need to focus on me. I started to get ready, and I started to line up with all the other swimmers. And then I noticed that there was a theme with the swimmers. So you could imagine there's a tall white guy, tall white guy, tall white guy, small brown guy, tall white guy, tall white guy. I was looking across like, wow, okay, it's one of those David versus Goliaths moment, and I thought this would be an interesting swim. And afterwards, an official came towards us and said, oh, by the way, guys, just to let you know that the water temperature is about 14 degrees. Good luck. And then he started running away. And I could see, all the swimmers saying, oh my God, that's too cold. I can't do this. And there was me just, I've never done this before. I don't think that's too bad. Let's just go for it. So I was the first person to start walking down to shore. And believe you me, when I took my first step out in that sea, then I realized how cold 14 degrees was. And I thought, oh, you know what? I don't want to look like a fool. I'm the first one here, so let me start walking down. To the point where the water was by my neckline, I started to just float. And after a couple of minutes, I couldn't feel my body anymore. Because like, maybe this wasn't a good idea, but you know what? I've committed. Let me keep going. So as we swimmers lined up for in the starting line, you could hear the bell sound, and off we went. And I remember the race. On the first length, I was doing really amazing, I would say. I was in line with the first, the second, and the third swimmer. And what followed was, you could imagine just this big, massive wave crashed over me. I started to tumble around, and I started to lose feeling of my body. And I started to drift slowly away from the sea. And I thought, why can't I move? What's happening here? And I started to lose consciousness, even hallucinating. There was a certain memory that came up while I was hallucinating. And it was the memory of when I just finished swim practice. This was when I was back home. And my muscles were aching so much from that practice. And normally, let me ask you guys, who's the first person you normally go to when you're at home and you're in pain? Precisely, good old mommy, right? So I went up to my mom and I said, Mom, wait, she's not that tall. Mom, my body is aching so much. Can you help me, please? I said, okay, give me a sec. She reached out in the cupboard. She got a little pack. She gave it to me. This is Anodin Extra, right? This is a painkiller? Okay, so I took 2 tablets and I went to bed. So I went to bed. And then mommy doing her mummy things downstairs. Actually, let me ask, do you believe that parents have superpowers? I like to think so. You know when Spider-Man has his spider senses and it tingles and he senses danger? Well, I feel that my mom has that. So as she was doing her mummy things, her mummy sense was tingling. It's like, something's not right. So she went upstairs. She checked on the little boy and she said, Kai, I think your ears are swelling. And me sleeping. No, it's fine. I think it's just because I kept on turning. It's fine. Just leave me alone. So I just kept on saying to myself, Mom's like, okay, I'll come back. So she went downstairs again, doing her mummy things. And after a couple of minutes, her mummy senses were tingling again. It's like, no, something's not right. She went upstairs yet again, checked on her little boy. I said, son, I think your eyes are swelling up as well. Right, we're going hospital now. So we started to travel to the hospital, and when we got there, I told my mom that my throat was closing up because I think it was getting inflamed. And then I was rushed into the emergency room, and there was a doctor who was seeing me, looking at my statistics, and then he said, oh, why don't you take this? It'll help, slow down the process. It's oral steroid. So I took it down, and after a couple of minutes, it still didn't feel any different. Luckily, there was a nurse who came by and checked my statistics as well, and he said, Doc, I don't think what you're giving him is going to be quick enough. So he literally got my bed on wheels and started to put me in his part of the emergency room. And then he opened this little cupboard that had little vials, and he started injecting me with these different vials. And at this moment, all I could describe was my body shaking profusely and my heart pounding really quickly. Now, you know where in the movies when the main protagonist is about to meet his maker, he gets a flashback of his life? Well, I'm telling you guys, in my personal experience, that happened to me. The difference is I had two sets of flashbacks. My first set of flashbacks were all the good memories that I've encountered in my life, all the beautiful friendships, when I was loved, when I was successful, you know, the people that made me feel that I can own the world. The second set of flashbacks were the flashbacks where I regretted those experiences. The situations where I considered myself a failure, beating myself up, regretting to take action on certain things, the people I've hurt. And I had to ask myself one question: is this how I really lived my life? Did I truly live it purposefully? And the simple answer was no. And then the screen started to white out, and I thought, you know, if this is it, let be it. Luckily, a couple hours afterwards, I woke up in the recovery room, and I just noticed a sea of beautiful smiles. The doctor, the nurse, my family, and most especially my mom's smile. Now, being able to see my mom smile gave me this warm feeling that I could accomplish anything. And it's through that warm smile that I got out of that hallucination from that memory and back into the floating out in the sea. And it was that warm feeling that got me the feeling of my body again. And I thought, you know what? If I don't do anything now, I'll be saying goodbye to that smile, and I'll never see that again. I now have a choice to just let it be, or to take action and come back to see my mom. And that's what I did. I started to swim back, stroke after stroke. Even though I was tired, even though I couldn't see properly, I kept on swimming till I reached the shore. When I reached the shore, I started to crawl because I couldn't even walk anymore. I couldn't even stand. Luckily, there was an official, and my mom came running down to shore, picked me up, put me in this little shed, and started to wrap me with 10 layers of clothing. And from there, my coach gave me a cup of soup, and I had to just drink it because I was too fatigued, and I couldn't even feel how hot the soup was. This was when a lifeguard started to attach things to me to check my statistics. While he was doing that, my mom just looked at me and said, you know, son, I'm so worried. You're turning blue and your lips are purple. And then she put her forehead to mine and said, I'm glad you're fine. I'm glad you're here. And from that moment, the lifeguard who was checking my statistics says, oh, by the way, Mr. Piccio, you should consider yourself lucky because you nearly died out there. If you would have stayed 10 more minutes out in the sea, you wouldn't be here right now. That's because I was in stage 2 hyperthermia, nearing stage 3. And it was at that moment, again, seeing my mom's relieved face, that I realized the most important lesson that I do my best to incorporate in my everyday life. And that is knowing that love is the most powerful force in the entire universe. It can shape countries, it could inspire communities. Heck, it put man in the moon, for God's sakes, you know? The love for exploration. And it saved my life. And I actually wanted to ask a favor for you guys. If you would like to join this little activity, all you have to do is look to the neighbor on your left and right give him a hug, and say, neighbor, you are loved. All right, guys. So I'm guessing that the feeling you have now is completely different to how you were 5 seconds ago. And this is the power of love. Now, I'd like to thank Mo especially for giving me the platform to spread the love and be loved. I just want to say I love you all. Thank you for having me. Oh, wait, because I want to see the sign.
Oh. You got anyone taking pictures of you?
Well, I'm hoping so.
Great, how good was that, guys? So now he's shared his secret for being this bubbly, happy, loving person. He just walks around hugging people. So if you want to be happy in life, just give hugs. Free love. And also, I hope none of you guys stop visualizing him in these videos. So yeah, thank you for inspiring us with your talk. I just want to open it up to any questions, if anyone has any questions for Kai. Yeah?
Would you get back into swimming?
See, that's always the question. I love that question, by the way. At this moment, I probably would say no. Only because, pardon? Coaching, well, actually, I actually do a little bit of swim coaching, so if you guys are interested, I'm here. So yeah, in terms of getting back to the sport, I know exactly what it takes to get to the top, and I actually now am applying that same energy into a different sport. So I think my focus right now is into that sport and knowing that I could contribute more there rather than in the swimming community. So parkour, by the way. If you don't know what that is, it's basically urban acrobatics. So if you see people jumping off rooftops, that's slightly what I do. So, yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
So how did you come out of the depression after you learned to?
Very good question. After years and years and years of doing the same thing, which is at that time I just would wake up in the morning and say like, oh wait, there's no point of me doing anything because I can't swim anymore. I think it's by my personal experience forcefully telling myself that let me just do something differently than I do today. So from the normal routine of just feeling sorry for myself the whole day, I thought, okay, maybe I should just go out in the park and maybe just sit down. You know, that's a start. And then from there, I would gradually open up and say, oh, okay, I'm okay with this. Let me meet up with my friends again. I was okay with that. And then I started to go to events. And from the events came, you know, the knock-on effect. And that's how I gradually sort of got myself out of the, I would say, the depression stage, because it is really hard to get out of. It's only up until you decide to do something with your life that you realize, okay, I want to do something differently because I'm so sick of what I'm doing now. And I think that urge to explore, be curious, got me to where I am now. So I hope that answered that question.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes.
You seem to be someone who's very present to life, which is a hard thing to be. It's hard to be present. We often get caught in past and future. Is that true, what I said? Did you feel that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that was the key aspect of, one of the key aspects of my talk today was that truly, in my mind, I believe what we only have is this moment. And nearly dying twice, I'm not sure if I'm lucky the third time, you know? And I always think to myself that every day I always ask myself this question: if this was your last day, how would you like it to be? Like I said, because I was lucky for the first two, how am I going to be on the third? And I don't want to end the day saying, oh, I regretted not taking action doing this or doing that. Because really, like I said, we've only have this moment. That's my magical secret sauce, by the way, if everyone's wondering.
Have you found your way to actualize your experience where you are now?
It's a really good question. I think for me, personally, there isn't sort of, I believe, a right way of doing things, just a way of doing things. How you deem it is obviously completely up to you. From my personal experiences, how I took those experiences and, you know, being able to do what I do now, I think it's just realizing that everyone is going through their own journeys. We all know that. The question is, though, how would you like your journey to be? And knowing that at that point, I didn't even realize, for instance, I wanted to do urban acrobatics. I only started this year. But because I was curious to just give it a try, and having that mindset of Indiana Jones, where you're kind of like, oh, let's go to an adventure, let's do that. Oh, wait, okay, I've done this, let's do that. And it's like having that exploration mindset. Accidentally, I've gotten to where I am now. It's probably not, I consider, an effective way of doing things, but it's a way of doing things. And to summarize what I just said, it's just to have that exploration mindset and being willing to take action on your exploration and your curiosity.
You say exploration mindset. I think that's a really lovely way of putting it, because in all my life people always just told me that I lack focus. But I can't do the same thing for more than 2 weeks. Is that something you can say, something you identify with?
I would think so. Yes, actually. I think a really good spot on awareness is what Linda says. Like, how can you be so bubbly all the time? You know, like, is it fake? Is it real? And people are quick to judge for their own personal battles and their own set of insecurities. And I think they try to map that onto you by saying, oh yeah, you don't have any focus. But really, I think it's a reflection of them having that, not having that focus. And I personally think that whatever people say is true for them, but it's not true for me. I know exactly what's true for me, and I stick by it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Kai.